there, this is Sinika Waugh with Your Clear Next Step, and I am so thrilled right now to have the opportunity to introduce you to Gary Walljasper. And Gary is going to share more information with us. He and I get to have a conversation here about the program that is coming up here this fall with Gary. It's called Building Your Leadership Effectiveness. Gary, thanks so much for being with us today.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Sinika.
So as we think about this series, it's a 6-part virtual leadership series, and it has 6 sessions. Each session is 90 minutes long, and it's via the Zoom platform. So it'll be live, but not in person. So live virtual training. If someone's sitting on the fence right now and they've read some of the information, they've browsed the website content, and they've thought about they've heard a little bit of what you had to say here, but they're still on the fence. And they're trying to decide, is this program right for me? Gary, what would be some of the things that you would say to them to say, hey, here's how you figure out, here's what you'll get out of the program, or here's how you know if this program is really right for you right now?
Sure. Well, I would tell you, the building your leadership effectiveness focuses on the fundamentals. And even though they're the fundamentals, what I share with folks is no one has arrived completely. We are lifelong learners. And if you are an individual who is asking himself or herself, how am I truly showing up? I think I'm showing up this way, but how am I truly showing up? This program will be a program for you, just by the very nature of the types of questions that will be asked of you, the types of data that will be provided to you, the types of resources and tools that you can use to reflect. And as an executive and leadership coach, my job is to create reflection and move people to self-discovery. You will find nothing but non-traditional questions from me to really challenge you to think differently than just what are the fundamentals. And so even though we'll be talking about things like influencing, delegation, development, performance management, which are traditional topics for people leadership, the way in which we approach them through questions, through articles, through your assessment data, and through the way in which I interact with the group, both small group and large group, I truly believe will be different than what you've experienced before. So if you're intrigued with learning about how you are showing up, if you're intrigued about what your emotional triggers are, if you're intrigued about your natural tendencies and challenge tendencies and ways you can address them when they surface so they don't move to become an emotional distraction in the way you interact, then I would say come join us.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that's been really useful about this series over time is the fact that a person doesn't necessarily go through this experience alone. They're with a group of others. And I know you've facilitated this with intact teams, and that you've also facilitated this with groups of people who don't necessarily work together. What is the group experience going to look like? What could someone expect as they're participating or they're signing up for this series online? Are they going to get to talk to other people? Is it going to be weird and awkward? Is there even dialogue in a virtual setting? How does that work, Gary?
Sure, you bet. Well, the beautiful thing about the virtual technology that we're using in today's environment is that you can simulate, and we will simulate pretty much what it would mean to be in a classroom training session. And there will be opportunities for individuals to connect with peers in small group settings, as well as the large group. And I can't tell you how many times, there are countless times when I know that participants have asked the question, how would you handle, or how have you handled, and they would share that situation. And the majority of the time, if not all of the time, quite frankly, someone in that class will have experienced that situation. And so we talk through and people learn from the experiences. And so while we are virtual, we are still face-to-face, if you will, but also there's a great opportunity for people to connect, not only in the session, but in between sessions. There'll be reflection assignments and people can reach out to one another. So I'm convinced that with our technology, it will not only be more time effective for individuals because we've condensed the programs down to allow for individuals to participate, but also to experience the ability to interact with one another in a manner that they have in class.
Wow. So reflection is one of the elements that we'll think about in this program, and the program gives opportunities for reflection. And one of those comes in the assessments. Can you talk to us a little bit about the assessments that accompany this program?
Yeah, you bet, you bet. The assessment that I use is called the Best Work Data. It's a self-assessment, and it's got a cognitive component that exists. It's not an intelligence test, but it is an assessment that focuses on natural tendencies, challenge tendencies. And those are the concepts that I use that are different than what the traditional words would be for people, which are strengths and weaknesses. And we talk about what are those natural tendencies? What are the challenge tendencies? What are the emotional triggers? And what are the blind spots? Those four components in terms of reflection are components that many people just don't think about. And because they don't think about them, many don't have a way in which to address them, particularly the emotional triggers or blind spots. So the assessment, through the assessment, participants receive a portfolio of different reports that we use throughout this series. And we have dialogue and really help them think about and use the data to build a profile. Well, where they might want to explore within those areas. And the feedback that I've received from participants has been nothing but positive. In addition to saying it's unbelievably spot on. But it's an easy to read set of reports that allows people to really think about, wow, am I really showing myself in that manner? So it's been incredibly instrumental to folks as they go through the series.
So Gary, as we're starting to wrap up here, very often our customers at Your Clear Next Step are individuals who are purchasing programs for themselves. And I think you've done a wonderful job describing for us what an individual is going to get out of this. But we also find that many of our customers are leaders within corporate organizations or within companies who are not necessarily purchasing this program for themselves, but they are interested in purchasing this program to invest in one of their own team members who is themselves also a leader. So as we think about that, let's say I was going to buy this, potentially purchase this program for one of the leaders who reports up to me. What words would you say? What benefit am I going to get out of that? Is this a good use of the company's time and money?
It's a great question, Seneca, and it is a good use of individuals' time for a couple of reasons. One, in the short period of time in which an individual will be participating, they'll be given an opportunity to really reflect on their leadership, where they are today and where they want to go, and to look at those two answers and identify gaps in which they can address. There'll be so many opportunities to build self-awareness, to move someone to self-discovery, to address those emotional triggers and blind spots, and to develop approaches in which they will be most effective. And most of all, it just gives an individual to think about what does it mean to move to a level of authenticity in their leadership, a level of consistency that creates an environment where people are following them because they want to, not because they have to. They're following them out of commitment and not out of compliance. And so if a leader has an employee or a team of leaders in which you want them to develop the right self-awareness, to move to self-discovery, this is the program.
Outstanding. Thank you, Gary.
You bet. Thanks, Seneca.